Good evening, everybody. Welcome again. I am glad you guys can join me in the chat right now. Just Nitin, welcome. How are you? So yeah, we're back in our space game, and like I said in my last stream, I was thinking about various options to see what is next. And in the chat, a lot of people were fond of the idea of looking at creating an editor plugin to pose our character, and figured that might as well be something fun to start working on it. Never done a plugin in that style before, so it's something that we'll discover together and figure out how to do. I've created one or two plugins. One, very big one that I did was the one that is part of the whole procedural mesh generation tool that I created, where in GD Native I created a whole bunch of things to actually generate meshes, but then created a Godot editor plugin to work, to build the mesh generation itself. So there's a whole node tree in there that allows you to determine what steps the procedural mesh generation does. So this will be in a simpler but similar vein, but we need to start using gizmos. Now that's pretty new. So we'll have to do some research tonight. We'll have to do some reading and just see how far we can get. Good morning, Dragaio Games. Nice of you to join. Well, here it's evening. It's what time is it? 9 o'clock. Yeah, of course. My stream starts at 9. So yeah, we'll see how far we will get with that tonight. So I already loaded up our little captain guy in my cafeteria. One thing that is very obvious is that the cafeteria is way too big. So I haven't really had any time this week to further flesh out these areas. But this one definitely needs to become smaller. But we'll get there. I think adding the pose logic that we can actually pose our characters, and maybe even build some of the animations inside of the editor, that'll make this stuff a lot easier. So let's just start with that. So opening up our captain figure, and we've got our nice little animation loop going. So that's something that we have to be careful with, because we auto start that even in the editor, and obviously if we start doing our poses while the animation player is running, we have a problem. So I probably need to add something in that we can stop that behavior. I actually think that is something that we're going to put in here as an export. Oops. Where did that go? Bling. Yep. Yeah. Hi, Ganapathy. Nice of you to join me. I hope I'm not butchering anybody's names. I probably am. Very sorry for that. So we just put an export variable in there, and what we're just going to say is that as long as animate is true, we're going to go and keep animating. So now if we're in here and we look at our animate property and we turn that off, then once it finishes the cycle, it stops animating. And that means that if we make changes to it now, we actually get some changes. So that's pretty good. So yeah, we have our animation player in here with all our default animations. We have our skeleton in here that we can actually that we can actually interact with. So here are all our bones. Now we could manually enter values in here if you really want to be crazy. But obviously that is the thing that I need to turn this thing off. Sorry, bothering me a bit that it keeps bleeping. There we go. So obviously, you don't want to pose your characters in that way. We actually want to have a proper gizmo and a proper way to select things. Now we already have our skeleton menu here. I have no idea what create physical skeleton does. I've tried to play around with it, but I didn't really get that to do anything sensible other than screw up my character. So if someone can explain that, then that would be really cool. a car system damage in Godot. There are hundreds of different ways to do that damage systems. The most old one, of course, simply being that you have multiple meshes of your car. One where your car is in pristine condition, and one where it's slightly damaged, and then one with more damage, and then you just with your health of the car, as your health goes down, you decide which mesh to show. More complex things have that per element, so you would have the car broken up in side fenders and doors and all that sort of stuff, and depending on where you take damage, you just change the meshes that you get there. That is a bit of a different topic than what we're dealing with today. So that could be an interesting thing to look into at some point in time for the craft in this game. Though I think that as far as my space game is concerned, it doesn't really make sense because you're never close enough to the enemy ships to really see that sort of thing. That first option might be something that makes sense here, where if your enemy ship takes damage, that we do start showing more damaged meshes. But I don't think it'll ever make sense in a game like what I'm building here to actually do damage on individual parts of the ship. But yeah, in a racing game and stuff like that, you want to just have a door damage if you hit a wall with a door or something like that. Yeah, I'll try and remember to leave some comments. But yeah, like I said, not really the topic of today's video. Okay, though. So yeah, one of the things that I'm wondering about is if we can add it into the skeleton. But we might end up with another button in here that allows us to select which bone we're going to be editing. If I can get to a point where I can even click on bones, I'm not sure. Again, this is new territory for me, so we'll see how much influence we can do in the editor. So I already pulled up the help pages on the editor plugins. So we'll be browsing through this. The first bit, we're actually going to follow this part of the tutorial, simply because it makes sense to run through that. So we don't have an empty project. We are going to actually create this in a normal project. First, I create an empty. First thing you need editors, and then find a new plugin. Create 2 files. Plugin for configuration, and what? It says 2 files. That's 1 file. All right. We need to create 2 files, and it only talks about 1. I think the second one that they're talking about is later on. So the script file. Yeah, the script file. So that's what they're on about. All right. So, but we can use the new project settings plugins tab to create one. So let's try that. So we're going to go to plugins. We're going to go create a new plugin. We're going to call this our GD Pose plugin. That's going to be res / add-ons / GD Pose. I just want to double check. Yeah, that looks good. Plugin to pose skeletons. Why can't I tab out of that field? Probably because the tab is a normal character. No, that's not by Godot. That's by me. Let's keep that to version 1.0. And then obviously here we need to do add-ons. Oops. / GD Pose. GD Pose.gd. I think that was what. Or do we just call that? No, we call this one plugin, because this is just a plugin loader script. Great. All right, so that didn't go in there. Does it give us a reason why? It gives us a reason, dear access. So for some reason, Godot is not allowing us to write in that. All right, unless that thing can only add a plugin entry for an existing plugin. That's possible. So let's just do it the manual routes. Where is my space game here? I do plan to put this, if we get it all to work, to put this into a separate repository and probably add it into the asset library. Let's just create some empty text files here. So this is plugin. That is fine. And actually, let's see if it now creates that. Plugin config file. Pose assets. Again with the tabs. I'll probably give this better descriptions eventually. Add-ons. There's GD pose. There's plugin.gd. Create. Now, it really wants us to have those files in there already. That's really strange. What's the other file supposed to be called? Plugin config. Okay. Text documents. Plugin. CFG. There we go. That's good. And I'm just going to open that in Sublime, just as easy. So we're just going to do the old-fashioned way. I'm not sure why that dialog doesn't work. I've had problems before with this on Windows. It seems to be working a lot better on other operating systems. Okay, so plugin name is going to be gdpose. I'm not going to worry about capitalizing things. Add-ons gdpose. I'm actually going to leave some of this alone. Res add-ons gdpose plugin. There we go. And now I want the plugin to be edited. So let's go put that in there. And we just do the same thing. We just copy off this stuff just so that we have our base code. I want the tabs. I don't want spaces. There we go. All right. So back in here, does it now find our plugin? It doesn't. Okay. File system. Add-ons. gdpose plugin. There we go. That one's there. Okay. That should now load with this plugin in there. That's interesting. Are we missing anything else in here? Okay, so this is just what it wants us to fill in. That's not probably the way that it wants to format this. Do I have any other plugins in here? Hold on, let me just have a look. Why can't I see it? Come on. Nope. Have I not downloaded it? Tools? Nope. Hey, Celery Cat, how you going? Sorry, I'm just trying to find out if I have put my beautiful little GD proc mesh thing somewhere yet, but I don't think so. So I'm just going to go and download it real quick. Git clone. GD proc mesh, I think it is. I probably need to do that the full way. HTTPS, dunk. There we go. All right. Oh yeah, that has a few big files in there, so that'll take a minute. Alrighty, there we go. So, It's in demo, add-ons, proc mesh, plugin. Ah, there we go. Name, pose library. Again, I'll just do it like this. Procedural mesh editor. So this is pose editor. Monodo plugin. There we go. Let's see if it now finally is happy with this thing. Project settings. There we go. Let's go and enable this thing so we can actually do something with it. And now I've got this. So I'm just going to leave that all alone. That's all fine. And we have our editor plugin tool. So this is just a basic structure of our plugin that you create. This is all that is needed to let Godot know that there is a plugin available. So Godot, whenever it opens up or whenever it gets focused, it will scan through your folder structure, which is where it tries to find which image files it has to import or other assets to import. But also if it finds a config file like this, a plugin config file, it will automatically register it and add it into our plugins here. But we do need to enable it. We do need to enable it so that it actually runs. And basically, that is what makes the plugin do its initialization. I think at that point in time, I think there's actually a method in here that gets called that does things. But at that point in time, it starts working. Now, what that plugin does and what it can do depends really on what you implement. So when we look, for instance, at our proc mesh here, I can just quickly open this up. You'll see that it registers a few things. And then it adds a panel at the bottom here in this section. And that's where my proc mesh editor lives. But you can add things in any place in the editor that you want, and then let it react on things. So you can see that it hides it here. And the other thing that we're doing, so we're adding a custom type, although I think that one doesn't actually work. So that adds the control in. So where do I tell it what? Oh, hidden handle. So whenever a object gets selected in a node tree, it will ask the install plugins whether that plugin is responsible for doing something with that object. So in this case, you can see that it says, hey, if it's an array mesh, then we're going to check if the script is a proc mesh, and in that case, we return true to let the interface know that we're doing something. So that is something that we need to do in our plugin as well, only we're going to be reacting on skeleton because that is the thing that we want to make editable there. Before we do that, let's go back into here and just see if there's anything more that it tells us here that we wanted to do. So here's just telling us more about custom nodes that we want to add in. But we're not worried about that. We're not doing anything with that. We're not worried about any docs that we want to do. Although that is eventually something that we want to create. And we'll see. I'm just having a look if there's anything in here that tells us about... Yeah, we need to do mainstream and we need to do spatial plugins. Actually, let's read through that first because that is something that we need to do. Spatial gizmo plugins are used by the editor, and custom plugins define gizmos attached to a special any kind of spatial node. The tutorial will show you two main approaches defining editor gizmo plugin. Regardless of the approach we choose, we will need a gizmo plugin. This will allow us to set a name for the new gizmo type and define other behaviors such as whether gizmos can be hidden or not. Um, it's not just to override a has gizmo method so that it returns true when the spatial parameters is our target type. Okay. So we are going to make a spatial gizmo plugin. But I think that means, go away, I need to go over here. Do we need to change this one? I think so. Let's actually go and see if that is indeed, no, that is a, so is that our editor plugin or is that a new type that I need to do? All right, I think we need to skip, not skip over things. So that's the editor plugin. Do we need to add other plugins? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. So this needs to be a new file. So we are going to go, that's just a new GD script. New script, and we're going to call that bone gizmo. There we go. So there's our bone gizmo. That is actually going to extend editor spatial gizmo. Okay. Oh, I want to go back to this one. There we go. And we're just going to return, we don't care about ready. We're going to return func get name, boom, and we're going to return here bone gizmo. Can I do that? Let's just do this, bone gizmo. All right, there's our name for a bone gizmo, and that now means that in our plugin here, I wonder why. Okay, that's all right. We'll just follow that example. So this is going to be bone gizmo plugin is preload, and then we just drag that in there. There we go. So there's our gizmo plugin loaded. I am definitely running out of space here. We can make this smaller because we don't really care about that. And then we just do a, I'm actually going to call that bone gizmo is dot new. So we're going to create our new gizmo. And now when our plugin comes in, we're going to do an add spatial gizmo plugin, bone gizmo. And when we exit our tree, we're going to remove our bone gizmo. There we go. Alrighty. Okay. So for simple one, it's just inheriting of that. Yeah, so some per. Go the second approach. All right. So we're gonna have to read what is the difference between the simple approach and the more complex approach, and decide which ones we want. First step in our custom gizmo plug is override the has gizmo method so that it returns true when the spatial parameter is our target type. So we are going to need to do that on our skeleton. Cool. Then we can override methods like redraw or all other handles, so we can go and react to that. Perfect. All right. Note that the create material in the init method. Okay. So there we go. We have a has gizmo for that, and we have a redraw gizmo to draw it. Okay. What is our alternative approach then? What's special about that? In some cases, I want to provide our own implementation. All right, so that needs to have some special state. I don't think we're going to do that. The only thing that we need to have... Oh, we might need it. It has some state stored in each gizmo, or because we are okay. Well, let's see if we can at least get our skeleton to react so that our base gizmo is there, and then we'll see if we need to add something special in there or if we have enough control over what we're doing. Because I think we're going to have two parts to our plugin. One is the gizmo, which actually allows us to change the pose of an object, and the other one is to select which bone we are actually editing, which I'm thinking of making a drop down on the main toolbar. And both of those can react on the skeleton type. And that's actually a good question. Is it actually on the skeleton? I think it is. Oh, no, go back to Captain 3D. Yeah, so we're going to want to react on that. We've got the skeleton type selected because that gives us access to all the bones. So I want to go and just do this. I just want to see how much of this code we can use as is, because I also wonder what the interaction is here. Also handles in the redraw method. We still need to implement the rest of the handle callbacks to get the... Okay, so we need to have all the handles. All right, that's cool. Okie dokie. Okay, so that's a my custom spatial, but that's not a problem for us right now. So let's go back into our scripts, into our bone gizmo. So we're returning our name, and the next thing that we want to do is react to has gizmo. And what we want to do here is if spatial is, I think it's is, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, we can just return that, even better. Return spatial is skeleton. Cool. Now, we might need to eventually also support the other ones. Don't know. We will see. For now, I am just interested in supporting skeletons. All right. So this means that when a skeleton is selected, this gizmo becomes active and we can do something with it. Now I'm going to just copy the rest here. Interesting that... All right. Well, I guess those are really cool little helpers. So let's use our helpers. Create material. There we go. Main. And we might not need all of these. I don't know. And create a handle material, handles, and that's it. So we're going to use those as is. And then we have our redraw gizmo, which, and this one I'm actually not going to go and type all in. I'm just going to copy it. Here we go. And of course it's spaces, so we need to fix that up. Boom, 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 boom. All right. All right. Now I'm just going to go into our product sections and I'm going to disable our plugin for a minute, and I'm going to re-enable it. And that hopefully will just reload our editable gizmo, because when we last loaded it, we didn't have all this stuff yet, right? Not sure. It might have actually not done anything. We might actually need to restart this thing completely. Oh, those are all our warnings from our experimentation before. I actually want to take that out. So yeah, the big question right now is if we go into our 3D mode and we select our skeleton, boom, which we draws way too long, do we have something extra being drawn? I don't think so. I actually want to go hide him. So there's our beautiful little skeleton that it has normally. Gizmos, does it already show our gizmo here? No, it doesn't. Okay, so let's go show you again. I am, just to be sure, I'm just going to go and quit into my project list and reload this thing, because it might simply be that we added things too late, and as a result it hasn't actually loaded everything in. So oops, that's auto load. So there's our plugin, it's still there, that's really good. So let's go and open up our character scene. Go back to here, we go back to there. It takes a while. There we go. All right. Now our bone gizmo is in there right now, so that's promising. But now the big question, of course, is, let's hide you. Is our gizmo being drawn and just being drawn on top of this guy, or are we not doing anything? So, oh, look at that. We have some errors here. That might explain why nothing's being drawn. So let's go back into our script and look at our gizmo. So, all right. So we have a custom value here that is getting our position, I'm guessing. All right. Let's make that 0.5. I'm just going to hard code this. And I'm going to make this one 0 because I think our handles are for rotation. All right, so let's see if we now select this guy, if it actually does something more. Nope. We don't get any errors anymore, but we don't have a gizmo yet. All right. So this is just a vector or a line going from 0, 1, 0, which will be 1 up. That is red. You know what? I'm gonna make this thing diagonal and just see if it pops up then. Still no cigar. All right. Now I'm going to go and do this now as this. Say return true. I know that direct return should work, but this allows me to do a really. Is that really missing from here? I think it's that. I didn't want to have that hello there. All right, so I put, yeah. Let's see if that makes a difference. Oh, we're not getting anything there. We're not getting anything there. Oh, we do have a line. See, there's our line, our gizmo line. So I think, I have a feeling that it was the missing of making it a tool script that made that not work. Hi, Sheriff. How you going? All right. I don't know why it's not printing that, but let's just change this back to what it was before. There we go. All right. I'm going to assume that this wasn't working because we were missing the tool script. So let's actually verify that. Go back to here. So that's obviously still going to be there because we drew that before. I think that means that I need to just do this, because once it stops doing stuff, it's obviously not going to do anything anymore for us. There we go. So we don't have our line this time. Okay. And now if I turn this back into a tool script, oops, I need to go over here. Select skeleton again. Then in this case, it is still not working. That is really, really strange. Save it? Yeah, saved it. Alright, let's just reload it, just in case that makes a difference. No, we can see our line being drawn now, even though we don't have... That is so weird. Okay. Oh, so... Hold on. Okay. So it's always being added into our scene. But only when skeleton is selected, it becomes bright. So I think that is one of those extra settings that we need to do. Hi, Burned. Ooh, VR app made by a student. That's always cool. So yeah, let us know how well your student did. I hope you made something nice. Okay, so we can see that our line is being drawn. I'm just going to have a let's go and search for this and add it in, because I want to see what handles and, because the line, I understand, it's just drawing lines, which actually we don't need. We want to actually have handles. So new type. There's two main types of this style. For the simpler, or creating a new spatial gizmo type. All right, which we might need to do, but we'll see. Can be hidden. Commit handle. Create gizmo. Okay. So that's the thing. Alright, so we get our spatial node. Now we know where we are. That does mean that right now, if we move our captain, it's actually not just over here. No, our line does move with it. That's interesting. Boom. So it is always drawing a local space. That's interesting to know that this is working in local. That's going to be important because our poses may not work otherwise. All right. Now, let's look at this. Yeah, so our line is what we draw. And our handles is what we detect clicks on. That's what I'm assuming here. It's a shame that we can't... why is actually our skeleton not being drawn anymore? That's the other thing that's... Oops. That's really weird. Because obviously I've got my body hidden, but I'm still actually expecting my skeleton to be drawn. So yeah, I wonder where our skeleton has gone. Why that one's not being drawn anymore. I'm wondering if it doesn't allow us to have multiple gizmos for one type. Because obviously our skeleton is already a gizmo. I wonder about that. Because that would mean that we would sort of need to extend that one. Let's try that. I just want to turn this off for now. I'm just going to go and say return false. Just turn this thing off for now. Boom. All right, let me go back to here, and obviously that doesn't work right away. Boom, here we go. So here's our nice little skeleton. Boom. So you can see that our skeleton is now nicely selected, but we can't actually do anything with our skeleton, right? So it draws it, but that's it. But the problem that we now have is the moment that we add our tool in, where are we? It disables by the looks of things. Just want to restart that because obviously it doesn't right away react. So now our gizmo is working, but our built-in skeleton is gone. That's a bit of a shame that you can't have multiple gizmos on one object. Now, we could rebuild that, obviously, which would be a bit of a pain. Hi, Rahul. Cool, getting a quest too. That's pretty cool. Diff, I'm not sure why you are saying hi and keep deleting your messages, but that's okay. Yeah, VR drawing is awesome. Yeah, I still need to start playing around with some of these things. I've played around with what's the Oculus one where you can draw 3D models. Something that can't remember what it is, but it's really cool. I still have plans to do something with Godot and doing scene editing in VR. That will be really awesome. But who knows? That's all future music. So anyway, the problem that we have right now is that we're replacing our complete editor. Now, or our complete gizmo. I was hoping that we would be able to add this on top of the gizmos that are in Godot already. That sucks. Because that means that we're going to have to draw everything. And basically recreate what Godot already does. And then add our logic on top of it. Alright. All right. So what's special here is that we actually do exactly the same as what we're doing here in our gizmo here, but we have some of this logic in a special class so that we can have additional data in there, because here we are creating a single gizmo instance, which we're actually doing in our plugin, right? So we're loading our bone gizmo here, we're creating a new one, so we have one instance of this, and that is added as a spatial gizmo. That is then drawn wherever it needs to be. Hi, it's Alex. How you going? Yeah, Gravity Sketch I still need to do. Yeah, Medium. That was the one that I was thinking about. Medium is something that I've played around with a lot when it came out. It was a really fun tool to do stuff with. So we only have one instance of this gizmo. It just stays around, and that means that we can't keep state in there. As we are switching around, it expects to work purely on the data that is inside of our the object on which the gizmo is operating. I don't know how it then does, whether it will call redraw for every element that it's used on. So let's say that I got 4 skeletons in my scene. It probably is going to call redraw 4 times. I don't know. But the alternative approach, where we are creating our gizmo plugin and then creating our gizmo here, we're actually creating a gizmo for every object that it works on. And I'm assuming that it will throw it away when it doesn't need it anymore. And I guess that's also the reason why we can only have 1 gizmo per node, because I'm assuming that it's going to assign that gizmo to that node in order to draw it. Which again is a bit of a pain. It's a bit of a shame that that it does it that way. I was kind of hoping that that you could add gizmos on top of each other. You know, when you're looking at your 3D editor, you know, one could assume that these, you know, your move, rotation, and scale are actually 3 individual gizmos that work on it, and you know that kind of also makes more sense because we still have our standard gizmo on that. So I really wonder why it is our skeleton is disappearing. It doesn't really make sense to me. Because that is still, obviously I should not save this. Let's just try that out as a I just want to see. Okay. All right. I just wanted this to now react on mesh instance, so we're going to reload our interface here. We go to 3D. So here's a skeleton back. Here's our body, but we don't have on it all mesh instance. Didn't I just tell it to react on mesh instance? I did. So why does it work for skeleton but it doesn't work for mesh instance? That is a type mesh instance. Okay. That is strange. So return spatial type. Unless it runs, it just does this one time. That's also possible. Well, let's just try it out. I know I'm experimenting here a bit because I'm trying to understand what actually triggers all these things. Don't load up. Well, once we do all this trial and error stuff, and we actually figure out how this thing needs to be built, yeah, you know, I might be tempted to turn it into a proper tutorial. Would definitely be a good subject. I think a lot of people would be very interested in a an actual conclusion version of what I'm talking about right now. Where's my captain character? All right. Boom. So yeah, that is so weird. All right. Let's put this back to being on skeleton. 3D. So obviously that won't do anything until we reload our scene. Unless we broke something again, which is, yeah, now that thing is back here, but our skeleton is gone. That one still works, but our skeleton is... Yet that main gizmo is still there. Alright. That is just so weird. Alright, well, it is what it is. We're just going to work on that assumption that as a result of creating our own plugin, we are making it impossible for the built-in one to work. Not much that I can do about that, I guess. unless our more expensive way of doing things will improve things. So I do want to go down this route of creating our own little gizmo type, for the very simple reason that I need to keep state. I need to keep track of which bone you've got selected, which bone you are influencing. So let's start working on that, and we'll have to do some basic redrawing of our skeleton. There's not much that we can do about it. Obviously, the other thing that we have to have a look at is how the handles itself works, because I'm assuming the handles do draw something as well. That's the thing. You know what? Let's move that up there, but I'm gonna move that like so. I don't like integers in coordinates, so you'll see my often see me just fill these in properly, because I don't know, it's just integers look weird where floating point values are expected. All right. I just wanted to get that in a different thing, because obviously it has a handle material. But I don't know why there's a line there. I wish there was more of a description about what the handles actually do and mean. So we'll see if that does something. Let's actually have a quick look at that and see if that changed anything that we're doing here. Because I'm now expecting something to be on this end as well. Because obviously that's our line that we're drawing. But oh, that's this guy. That's a handle. Okay. That guy over there. Why is that is going from there to there? Okay. That's interesting. That is not the one that I want to use, but that is interesting. So that's a line for like a path. We can do things with paths. Okay, that's cool. That is pretty cool. Okay, what else do we have? So we got icons. That's just going to show an icon. It's like for when you do your sound things. So I guess we're gonna just have to create lines. So that's again for the handle. So that's for those little round things. I don't think that's what we're using. Let's skip here. Override this method is a priority. Higher values correspond to higher priorities. If a gizmo with a higher priority conflicts with another gizmo, only the gizmo with the higher priority will be used. Ah! All built-in editor gizmos return a priority of -1. If not overridden, this method will return 0, which means custom gizmos will automatically override built-inness. Well, there's our answer. That why it's overriding the built-in skeleton drawing gizmo. Yeah, sucks a little bit, but it is what it is. Oh, well, it's like I said, it is what it is. All right. All right. Okay. So that explains why our skeleton is disappearing. It is, yeah. We are going to go down the route of creating our own gizmo, because I need to keep state. So let's change this over to that. So I'm actually going to rename that guy. So this guy is going to, can I rename it here? I cannot rename it here. I need to rename it here. GD pose gizmo. So that is going to become our bone gizmo plugin. There we go. Does this guy have a name? No, only that guy has a name. Okay, that's fine. All right. All right. And now we need to go and create our gizmo. So, okay. Before we do anything else, we need to now go in our plugin. We need to obviously rename that one as well. There we go. And now we're going to create new script. And here we're going to create our new bone gizmo. There we go. There we go. That guy is going to extend this guy. Now here the same thing. I am pretty sure that needs to be a tool script. So we're going to make that a tool script. And that is actually going to create all this logic. So for now, we will just go and, oops, that's this one, is take all this. Boom. And we're going to move that into here. But this redraw does not take our gizmo as a parameter because it is our gizmo. So here we remove that, this, and this. There we go. Oh, there's something more here. So that becomes, oh, that's interesting. Okay. Very well. Lines material is get plugin get material. So we're actually calling that on its container. There we go. Boom, that's one. And for handles material, get plugin dot get material handles self, and that's going to be handles material. There we go. All right. So that is on our gizmo. Boom. That's good. So now we need to change how this works. So instead of has gizmo, we're going to do this on create gizmo. And we're going to say if spatial is skeleton, boom, return else return null. So here we're going to return an empty one, and here we actually need to go and bone gizmo is preload, and we go and drop that one in. There we go. And then this one is going to be that, whoops, dot new. So instead of having a single gizmo that gets reused and reused and reused, use load. Why do we have a cyclic dependency there? That makes absolutely no sense, because we are not doing anything there. Why is that? We're not doing a plugin. Okay, so this is always where, when we do larger changes like this, and it gives cyclic redundancy, cyclic load issues, I tend to just reload the thing and make sure that we're fine. So, because that's usually something left over that was already loaded into memory. Because of course now all of a sudden we're changing the order. Oh yeah, it does make sense, because our main library, our plugin file was originally called Bone Gizmo, and now we renamed that to plugin, and we created a new file with the same name. So it got confused with the fact that in our plugin here we were loading the old one before. So I think that's where it sort of goes like, I've already got this one, but it's a different file. So I'm assuming that is our problem. All right. So we can see that our line is still being drawn, our gizmo thingies are being drawn, but we now have it as a actual file. And that also means that if we have multiple of these, it will create its own little instance of these. All right. Now, the thing that I wonder about is, are these handles the only thing that we can interact with? Is that... I just want to see. These are the plugins that allow you to create controls over here, I think. Okay. All right. Okay, so the problem that I have right now, the thing that I am not sure about, but the thing that I think is right now our problem, is that it is these thingies are the only elements that we can actually interact with. And they also disappear when we're not stacking. So our lines are always shown, but you know, and again, our skeleton before was drawn in yellow, which we probably will repeat here. But then I wonder if we can create something like this, because it looks like that these are actually not implemented as in the same way. Because I don't see anything in this. All right, so we have a number not called active. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's actually also go and find our editor spatial gizmo, because that's what we're now using. Oh, look at that. Okay. Okay. I'm starting to get this. All right, so our simple version, if we just do it on our plugins, we just have the basic options. We can draw lines, and we can draw create handle material, set handle. Yeah, I think that one just works on basic handles. But if we do the full one, which we're now using, we can actually add collision shapes and everything like that. Oh, that is so cool. Add specific segments to the gizmo's collision shape for picking. Call this function during redraw. Okay. Add some triangles to the gizmo for picking. A triangle mesh can be generated from a regular mesh too. Call this function during redraw. So that's always triangle mesh, okay? That's fine. Alright, align the gizmo, set up 2 points with given material. The lines are used for visualization. Call this function during redraw. Okay, that's it. Adds a mesh to the gizmo with the specified billboard state, skeleton, and material. Billboard is true. The mesh will rotate to. Okay, cool. I bet you that that is how the built-in skeleton works. All right. Now, all right. It's a mesh. Add a mesh to the gizmo. What state? Skeleton material. The thing that I'm missing here, why I'm currently sort of overthinking this, is that I was thinking about creating a mesh for a single bone, so that we can interact with that mesh. But it looks like we can only add one mesh. That sucks. I would like to add multiple meshes. Okay, so we're just going to go and use the lines. And I'm assuming that we can add more. Well, I guess you can add more meshes, but you would have to position every mesh. And that just doesn't make sense to me. So we're gonna do the lines. We're gonna use the lines in this case. And seeing that we can probably call this multiple times because we do a clear at the beginning. Well, actually, let's just try that. Let's see if we can indeed start using our lines. So what we're going to be doing is, instead of doing this, so this is nice to have as some sample code. That's all fine. This is why I don't like us not having that in there. Boom, 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 boom. Oops. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. All right. So our old code is now commented out because that's what we're going to be using in our gizmo plugin. I actually want to. I don't care about a handles material for now. Because we're not going to be using handles at this point in time. We might use them eventually, but I think that we're going to be doing our own things, and that's why doing the collision shape stuff seems. Hey, Patrick, how you going? Hey, Rod, how you going? Hiya, Leo. Nice of you all to join. So I'm just going to call that skeleton. Now, I actually want this thing to be yellow. This is the thing that I don't know. I wish there was a color picker in the editor. And no, I'm not going to build that tonight. You know what? We're just going to go over here. RGB value yellow. Here we go. 255. Okay, wow. There we go. That's yellow. Now, I bet you that doesn't redraw until we reload the plugin. It'll have to do. All right. So, now, here the thing that we need to change is we're actually going to rename that to skeleton, and we're going to class it as skeleton. There we go. And that should cast our node. We have made sure that our gizmo is only added to skeletons, so that should be a pretty safe thing to do. And if not, then that one obviously will be null, and we'll get into trouble. Maybe therefore we'll do, if not skeleton, return. So we're just going to do that just to be safe. All right. So that means that we're going to go and find our skeleton type. Ooh, let's go fast. And we're going to go through our bones because we want to go and draw all those guys. All right. That's probably the one that we're going to be using. Okay. Nope. And we're eventually going to start doing stuff with setting, but that's fine. Okay. Funky. Alright, I'm just going to look through it. It's that simple. It's all on index. So yeah. So, loop through our belts. Alright. For... Can I just do it like this? In range skeleton get bone count. There we go. So we're going to actually I'm going to call that IDX to be in line with the other thing. All right. So that means we need to figure out what a parent bone is. Is skeleton dot get parent. That's not the right one, I think. Get bone parents. All right. So now we have a bone and we get the parent of that bone. Now our root parents -1, then the bone has no parent because it is the root one. The parent bone returned will always be less than bone IDX. Okay, so it's always in order. Okay, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. All right. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to say if parent does not equals -1. So if we have a parent, then we want to add a line. So I just want to draw the line of our skeleton for now, and we'll eventually make something nicer out of that. So in order to get that, let's just draw a line from our position of our bone to the position of our parent, which means that we need to get the position of our parent. And now the big question is, okay, returns the custom pose of the specified bone. Custom pose is applied on top of the rest pose. Okay, so when we look at our skeleton here, and we look at our bones, you can see that we have a rest pose, and we have a pose on top of that. So if our mannequin is in our base pose, what's the best name for that? So here, by the way, you can see that the pelvis is -1, so that's our root bone. Oops. So if our, most often when you have a mannequin like this, the rest pose is like the T pose of the character, right? So if the pose here, the custom poses are all identity transforms, so 1 0 0 0 1 1 0 0 1 0 0 0, then we should end up with our T pose or whatever rest pose is defined for this mannequin. Arsh, whether I will be doing a non-VR game or not, I'm not sure. Maybe at some point. This is already going to keep me busy for months. But in the end, there's a lot of overlap between them, right? Especially for a game like I'm making right now. The only thing really VR experience-wise is how you're inside of it. Although, when you look at, for instance, being in the carrier that we're building, I want to have a seated experience in VR, so you don't actually really walk around the carrier. We use, looking at something, clicking on it, teleporting there. And we might eventually have some positions within a single room where we can move to. While for a normal traditional game, you would make a third-person character or something and you walk around, or even first-person. But there has been a lot of people who've been asking about. I actually still need to react to one of my my comments on my videos. I totally forgot. I'm sorry about that. About creating FPS games in Godot. Now, there are already a couple of people doing tutorials about that, so those are definitely worth checking out. But yeah, I might eventually tackle that because it is a fun thing to do. But it's it's a long haul to get through these things. So one at a time. One at a time. So yeah, so the point being, our rest pose is our T pose, and this is our custom pose that we set on top of it. Now, interesting enough, so you have your rest pose here, your bone pose here, so rest gets those values, pose gets those values. Now the question is, we have a get bone, global pose, and custom pose. And what I'm hoping with those two is, especially if we go down the node tree, every rest pose and every custom pose on every bone is in relation to the previous bone. When we want to actually draw something in position, we have to look all the way from the root parent all the way down to where our bone is. We need to add all those transforms together. Now, what I'm hoping is that these actually allow us to do is get those. Now, we have our custom pose here, which says returns the custom pose with specified bone. Custom pose is applied on top of the rest pose. So that's the rest pose plus this pose applied, but I think it's still local to this bone. And then our global pose, I'm hoping that our global pose then also takes the parents into account. So I think that the get global pose is the one that we currently need for both our parent and our current node. Now, one part of this is, I guess we would like to do some optimization here at this point in time, or at some point in time, but for now, we're just going to do parent pose is skeleton dot get global pose of our parents. There we go. And then our bone pose. So that's for ourselves. So that's now going to be skeleton.get bone global pose, and that's just going to be for our index itself. So now we have our two poses. Now, for now, I'm actually just going to go and move that over here, and we're just going to start adding these in. So here we can now do lines, push back, vector 3. No, that's not going to be vector 3. That's going to be parent pose dot origin. Origin, thank you, Bass. Lines dot pushback bone pose dot origin. There we go. So, and let's just go and draw these guys. Now, one of the things that I'm thinking about is whether we should do ads for each, because we're going to be drawing more lines at some point, pretty soon actually. Yeah. The thing that I'm wondering about is whether I want to do this ad in here, or whether I do want to accumulate them all and then draw them all at once. Anyway, pretty sure that'll... Alright, so that hasn't worked. Alrighty. Well, so much for theory. What have we missed? So we got our lines material. We're going through our poses here. Push back. All right. Is there anything in our errors that we need to know about? No, there is not. No idea if that works. Ooh, there we go. Yes, it does. Oh, and it actually is drawing. It just didn't update fast enough. Okay, that's cool. Let's go and Select the skeleton again so that it now becomes red. So now we can see that our skeleton is being drawn. However, it is being drawn without any thickness to it. But yeah, that is a good start. Well, this is going to be for PC VR. I will see. You know, again, my focus for this game at this point in time is just to make it work in VR. But it is, you know, these sort of games are relatively quote unquote easy. Let's get this print out of it. To also make a desktop version of. Although I don't believe that it's going to be a good game as a desktop game when we tailor it to VR, for the very simple reason that in VR you can look around. You're sitting in the cockpit, you can look around, and therefore you can build in gameplay elements that require you to look around. So in more traditional games like Wing Commander and, you know, the old X-Wing games and all that sort of stuff, because they knew that you could only look straight ahead and you had a relatively limited field of view, they weren't, you know, they would make the gameplay fun by making sure, you know, the design is good for you flying with that limited vision. In VR, because you know that you can look around and you can track the enemy and then fly towards that enemy, you can start incorporating that into your gameplay, and that makes that increases the difficulty level of the game, but it also increases the fun that you have. You know, the payoff when you actually finally take down an enemy. So I'm gonna go move this up a bit. Why did it do that? You must have pressed the wrong button. There we go. So it's one of those things where at some point you start designing towards a certain goal, you start using those things, and then if you tone it down by going back to desktop, it's a less fun experience. You have to then change your gameplay accordingly. Might go down that path, we'll see. Yeah. All right. So we are drawing our skeleton right now, but our yellow color isn't there, and the reason why that is because we were setting those colors when our plugin loads. So let's just reload the plugin altogether because I want that yellow color. It stands out better. That's funny. Okay. Not quite sure why it was in that different pose, but there is our skeleton. It's not yellow. What did I change? What did I do wrong? We got a color here. It's not drawing yellow. Why is it not drawing yellow? Did we do something wrong here? Lines, get material main. Ah, we renamed it. We renamed it. And that's why we didn't get a proper color. So, there we go. Yellow. Hello, Mr. Yellow Man. We have a yellow man. So, it's a shame that I can't go back to how our skeleton was before, because I actually want to draw our skeleton with some thickness. But that's going to be a little bit more tricky. Not too tricky, though. All right. Oh, I'm going to go here. And this is, again, this is where I am wondering, because the other thing is, once we select the bone that we're manipulating, I want to show that in some way too. But I have a feeling that it probably is going to be enough to do that with the handles. We will see. We'll see. I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided on that yet. But let's first go, and instead of having a line going from one to the other, we want to have that sort of that triangle bone shape, right? That's so familiar with these things. And that takes a little bit more effort. Oops. I am using a different language at work, so let. JavaScript, hate it, have to do it for work. Parent pos, not to be mistaken for pose. Bone pose is bone pose at origin, so I want those. And now we want to have our 4 points that are slightly offset. That also means I actually want to have a length. So I want to do parent pos minus bone pos dot length. There we go. So I want to know the distance between our 2 bones endpoints, because we're going to scale things up accordingly. All right. So now we're going to get our first midpoint. So that's going to be called P1. Okay, that also means, hold on, I want to go and, okay, do we want to, I might need to flip this around. We will see. There we go. And we're going to get the delta length, because I do need this. Yeah. Okay. So here we're going to start at our bone pose. And we're going to L add, and again, I think I need to do those the other way around. I'm not quite sure. Delta times 0.25. So we're going to go a quarter down. And now we're going to take our bone pose dots bases dots. I'm guessing that we're going to do in X and Z direction. But I might be wrong. Times length. And now I'm going to do that 0.25 as well. Not quite sure, but we'll see how well that works. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to introduce our P1 here. And actually, we can now do that one as that. And we can go from P1 to bone pose. Let's start there and see how much that does. And I might have to make sure that this redraws, and of course it completely disappears. Okay, that's interesting. Let's see if that is because our bone pose is completely wrongly calculated, although I would have expected lots of lines in the wrong places. Or is that because we just need to reload this bloody thing? Which is absolutely possible. No, that's not the problem. Okay. What have we done wrong here? We got our bone pose, we got our parent pose. We're calculating our bone pose. That's good. We're calculating delta and length. I'm creating that, and then I'm doing... To me, that looks fine. So, what are we missing here? Oh, look at that! Invalid index bases. Woo, okay. Haha. Nice, Bass. Well done. So the problem is, where I'm doing this, is I'm doing it on the pos and not the pose. This is what you get when you name things too similar. So I might actually need to do that different. I'm actually going to go and call this parent transform. And there we go. And now I'm going to call this bone transform. There we go. There we go. So that's going to make it, different enough that it's going to really stand out when we're using the wrong one. There we go. Okay, I think our 0.25 is probably too big. Way too big. That's fine. I'm actually going to make that a variable here. Offsets. I'm going to try 0.1. So we're going to do that with that. and we're going to go and do that with that. And let's go and add our other 4 points in that we want to have. 2, 3, 4. That's going to be a minus. That's going to be a minus. And here we're going to do it on the Z. There we go. Like this. 1, 2, 3. So here we're going to go to 2. Here we're going to go to 3. Here we're going to go to 4. So, all right. There we go. That's starting to look a lot more like a skeleton. So now we can see that we have our standard sort of view there now. That one looks nice, but that one doesn't. So some of these, why would that be, I wonder? Maybe because we need to go the other way around. That's probably it. Oops. Let's see if that is true. So let's go and use our parent transforms here instead. Oops. Sometimes my copy gets stuck. There we go. Let's see. That is looking heaps better. Now the other thing that I'm wondering about is, are we going to go the wrong way? I think that actually needs to go from, because this is our parent, and then we're drawing to there. And then this is our parent, and we're drawing to there. And then we're drawing to there. And actually, that's really interesting. Yeah, we're always doing it like that. And then our end bone is actually doesn't get drawn. Normally they draw a little thingy there. Okay. But that means that actually I want this to be the other way around. No, I want to then, yeah, I need to be this the other way around. Oops. And it also means that this needs to start at the parent position. There we go. Now I'm wondering if I should also draw the lines from P1 to P2. That does mean that I probably want to have those like this. I just want to order them differently. 2, 3, 4. So that now means that we also want to draw a line from P1 to P2. B2 to B3, B3 to B4, and 4 back to 1. So that creates that little square at the top. That looks pretty decent to me. All right. And again, we could probably play with the bone thickness a bit. Which would then, you know, move that down and make that bigger. But I think for now that is pretty decent. All right. So now we need to make sure that we can click these bones, and that is also why I was thinking I'm probably going to just do this. Let's go here. Let's just see if this is something that I want to move that over here. And I want to move this in here. Actually, I can stay on the top like that. And now I'm going to go and add that in here. There we go. So let's see if that screws this thing up or not, or if it keeps drawing. That looks fine. All right. So the reason I did that is I actually want to color the selected bone, the bone that we're going to be manipulating, differently. Now, one of the problems that we have is we're actually going to be manipulating its parent, I guess. Are we? Because that's what I right now don't get, is that's our parent bone, and it's orientated to there, and then that one changes and it's orientated to there. How does that go from here? Because these are all coming from the same parent bone. Or is there like a... No. So that is indeed... That doesn't make sense. I'm going back to using a bone transform here, because that makes far more sense to me. Yeah, I think it looked weird because we were doing it from the bottom. Or does it? Now you get those that are skewed, and that's what I don't get. That just doesn't make sense. Because the thing is, how can these be oriented in different ways? I don't know. There we go. Let's have a look at how our skeleton is. Can we actually draw numbers? Can we draw text to this thing? Is there a... Oh, is that the... That's the plugin? This one I need. Is there like an add text? No, there isn't there? Am I looking at the right thing? Yeah, I'm looking at the right thing. Let's see. Drawing lines. As the segments, the curve. Yes, now. So, how are segments defined? This is a full vector 3 array. So I get triangle mesh. But how does it know which one it actually comes back with? We've got add collision segments, add collision triangles. How do we get told? Okay, how do we get told when the user interacts with our handle? What does it mean by value? What is the value of a handle? That's what I wonder what they do with that. Because it does. Oh, that's the thing. There is a collision segment here. Add segments. Add collision triangle gizmo for picking. That just looks like for the whole gizmo in its entirety. Thanks. All right, so I'm guessing that a set handle is called when the user interacts with the handle. Okay, I get that. And a get handle name and get handle value. Where is that displayed? Gets the name of the edited handle. Handles must have been previously added by add handles. Handles can be named for reference to the user when editing. Okay. Okay. You know what I'm thinking of for now? This is weird. This is just weird. Okay. Well, we're just going to assume that that's what it is. All right. So oh, we already changed that back? Did we? Oh yeah, we already changed it back. I just didn't redraw the thing. Okay. So what I'm thinking about is we'll just add a handle on each point, and we're just going to allow us to drag them around. So we're purely looking at repositioning where something is, and then just looking, just calculating the rotation accordingly, which is a bit dangerous. So I really want to work with rotation and actually rotating it around the proper axes. Although I guess we can do that in threes. Because that's the thing that I was thinking about is, whatever thing that we click on, that's the one that we're good, because else we're going to have handles for every bone, and that could get very messy. It makes more sense to have a bone selected and then just work purely with that bone. And come to think of it, I actually think that these have to be 3 parents. Okay, so if we go into our bones here, yeah, all right. You know what? We're going to start with just putting handles everywhere, and that's just going to be, if we click on a handle, we're actually not going to make them movable. We're going to make those handles selectable. And then the selected bone is the one that we are going to make it possible to rotate. I think that is hey Game Endeavor, how are you? I think that is the way that we're going to make this work for now. But I really want to figure out if we can do more of a UI like that for our boats. All right. That does mean that I do want to move this back to here, because it doesn't make sense then to me to draw those lines all individually. Or does it? No, it does, because the thing that I want to do, hold on, I'll go over there, is I want to do here var is selected bone. So actually we're going to make that -2, because we can go all the way down to selecting our parent. Which is also kind of interesting, because that means that our end bone is never going to be editable. Alright, so if we don't have anything selected, it's going to be -2. So we're going to be reacting on the fact that our parent is selected, and that's what I still find very strange. Well, we'll see what happens. It is what it is. So, was that just parent? Here, that's parent. So, parent selected bone. No, this is going to become hold on. Add lines. Let's have a look. Add lines. Add lines. Material billboard. It's going to be false. And then color. So that's a color. Okay. So this is going to be color. 0.8, 0.8, 0. Actually, that's good. Like this. 1, 1, 1, 0.8. If else. Oh, that should be the other way around. This needs to be 0.8, and this one needs to be 1. So we're going to make it slightly transparent when it's not our selected bone. Okay, so we're probably not going to see much of a difference right now, but hopefully we will see a difference. Hi AC, I hope everything is good in Colorado. All right, so that's the reason why I want to add them bit by bit, because I want to be able to work with that selected color line. So we're also going to go and put our handles in, whoops, our handles into here. Boom. Because we're going to be filling it up. We're also going to go and move this one over here. There we go. Handles materials, lines material. There we go. And then obviously we'll be adding that in. So here, for now, I'm just going to go and put in our handles. I just want to get that over there. We're just going to put that on our parent posts. Yeah. Is that so? No, actually, I want to make them selectable on our bone posts. Yeah. So, alrighty. Okay. This is interesting because add handles to that. Okay, so we're gonna have to add in some sort of little table, I think, a certain sort of little array that we can track which handles are related to to which bones. All right, we'll have to figure that one out. Okie doke. Let's see if it actually adds those things in. Probably not, because I think we haven't uncommented our add handles line. Maybe we didn't. Okay. So you are no longer needed. Boom. There we go. Add handles. 3D. Okay, so that's still not working. Oh. I guess we need to go and reload again, because I had commented out our materials. That's not very handy. And without materials, I don't think it's going to draw any handles. It is funny that our beginning pose is not the pose that we're working with. There we go. Ah, look at that. We've got a bunch of handles all the way down to the finger. How cool is that? So we're going to be using these handles to... it's actually kind of interesting that they actually don't move. So that's pretty cool. So we're going to use these as selection handles. All right. All right. So. All right. All right. Actually, I'm going to make that -1. And we're going to do this on our index. We can always get the parent that we need to modify as a result. So that is what we're going to be doing here. Which also means that we're going to go and do this. Boom. Because for the selected bone, we're going to add a couple of additional handles. But before we do that, we actually need to go and create a little array so that we know which bones are what. All right. So and again, what I really want to do is, instead of doing this, I want to be able to click on the bone itself. But seeing that we have only got the whole thing clickable, not individual parts, at this point in time, I'm just going to have to work with the handles. But yeah, I really would want to have the ability to actually click on the bone itself. That then would select the bone, but I don't think we can do that with this approach. I have some ideas about how we could do that, but that actually requires quite some additional logic to our editor, and not working with these sort of gizmos, but adding something else in. So yeah, so we're going to use these as selectors. And that's the other thing is, I'm guessing we could create a different type of material if we want to have a different type of gizmo. And we might actually make use of that. So let's go and implement handling our... Actually, let's first do our names. For that, let's go and create a new handle IDX. Here's array. Boom. There we go. Which means we also want to do clear here to clear our handle index. Which means here I want to do pushback IDX. Okay. So we want to do get handle name. Func get handle name index. Is that a 0 index or a 1 index? I don't know. We'll find out soon enough. So let's for now just say return bone plus handle index, and I need to convert that to a string. There we go. Now I have no idea where or how that's going to end up being shown. Is that going to be something that if we click on it or hover over it, we see the name? Because that's the thing that I don't get. So why are we... Method handle index isn't declared in the current class. Okay. So it's not going to work if we actually have a... Oh, that's not a method. That's a... There we go. All right. Let's see if that works. Do we now have... Do we need to turn something on for that? View info? So why do we give our gizmos a name if we can't see them anywhere? Doesn't seem to be retrieved. I wonder if that's something that's got lost at some point in time. Get handle name. Guess the name of an edited handle. Handles must have been previously. Handles can be named for reference to user when editing. I'm guessing that only works if we func set handle index point. I'm just going to go past that. Boom. Boom. Okay, so it's definitely asking for the bone now. We're not doing anything with it. That's why that's happening. All right. Okay. So the thing that I want to change here. Okay. The thing that I want to change here is get the parent first. Is skeleton dots. No, not that skeleton. This skeleton. Oh. Yeah. Let's get that. No skeleton. There we go. Then here we're going to do skeleton dot get bone parent. Let's go and grab that first of our IDX. There we go. IDX. There we go. Here I'm going to say if IDX bigger than -1 for our parent. There we go. We get our parents here, else return to be determined. So let's do it like that. Let's get rid of this stuff because I want to change how that works. We're gonna get our parent. There we go, and that now means that we can do return skeleton dot get bone name of the parent, because again we're going to actually edit the parent of that bone because that's where the orientation is all from. All right. So if we now actually I want to see what happens when we do this. Spine 2 null. So oh yeah, I'm not actually printing that. I'm guessing the null. Why does it only do it once? Oh, here we go. I was being too slow. Spine 1, spine 2. So these are all the same parent. That's what I don't get. How can they have the same orientation? Because these have a shared parent. And that one is always looking up. What am I missing? What am I missing? What am I doing wrong here? What am I not seeing? What am I not seeing? Okay, so I now know which ones this is. So I want to have a look at what that looks like. So let's go this one. So that's Clavilier. Okay. Let's go and find that guy. I actually want to have the bone index number in there because that makes it much easier to find. I actually want to put that at the start. So that's going to be str parent plus that's okay. Let's go back in here. Let's see how that works right away. 13. Bone number 13. Here you go. It's where you can see it is doing everything with that. So that's going to be 9. The spine one. That's that one. Spine. This one does as well. No. I'm surprised by it, but I guess that's what it is. No, actually, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. It does make sense because we are rotating that point and we're actually rotating all 3, but these are indeed oriented top-wise. So there's an offset in here. And then we rotate that one We want to go there. So we are always working around the parent. Which is why it makes sense to say we've got this one for spine 1. Now that means that one. Actually, I want that one to be spine 2. Yeah, and I'm drawing it from the parent to that, but that one. Okay, so we actually are going to work on the parents here. And we're never going to do the root one here. That doesn't make any sense. And that's also where you can see that that one has got some weird flattening going on, and that is perfectly normal. All right, so we're actually going to say, so here we are doing an index. Yeah, perfect. All right. So we're actually not getting our parent here. We're just going to work with our index as it is, because that is the one that we're going to be editing. Now we're not going to do repositioning. So I'm tempted that when you click on our handle, we would actually be able to move that around. So now this is spine 2, and that is indeed the one that I want to change. So even though we've drawn from the parent up to where spine 2 is, with the orientation of the parent, because the parent's rotation determines how we're going up, its rotation is adjusting everything that comes after. Hold on. Yeah, no, I've been Emilio. I've been reloading the plugin quite a few times to sometimes get it to do what it's supposed to do. It's annoying. Yeah, and indeed, you know, sometimes it's better to just keep turn them off. That's where actually any editor script, whenever you're editing editor scripts, because they're running while you're editing them, it can have some weird effects. Anyway, as I was saying, the thing that I'm wondering about is, you know, it is tempting to say that if I move that around, because that's how these get positioned. So if you want to actually edit them and build the whole bone structure, which might be something that will eventually turn this plugin into, that you can actually build the whole, you know, add bones and work from there. I'm not sure. That might be, yeah, might be something that we eventually end up with. What was I going to say? Then it makes sense that you can move them. So one of the things that probably is going to be, you know, we will have a menu here eventually to get more options. So we're in time. We're playing time. That we might switch between the pose, the rest pose editor, which will allow us to move stuff around, and the edit of the pose, where you really only want to work with rotations. There are situations where you also want to move them, but the chance of when I want to select this guy, so I want to do something with it, the chance that I'd actually end up moving this guy is too big for me to to take that risk. I don't want to do that. So what we're going to be doing here is we're actually going to, in our set handle, we're going to go and get our handle here. So obviously we've only created that if we're there. I'm eventually going to do some more there because I want to actually make a little placeholder for our other bones. But here we're going to say if one of these is done, then our selected bone is going to be the bone that we just clicked on. So that should now, and again, this is probably where we do want to go and do that and then that. Okay. So actually it's only once you start moving that it kind of selects him. The click is not enough. That's so annoying. Okay, I think I need to make a bigger difference in color. Maybe it's actually ignoring that transparent color. So I'm actually going to go. Actually, let's test that. Make that really low. Yeah, it's ignoring the alpha. All right. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to make that 0.8, 0.8, 0.8, 1.0. Okay, that's not enough of a difference. Something that I also want to do before we do anything else is let's only do this once. Ah, don't do that. Selected. Let's see if we indeed end up selecting these things. And if this doesn't work, we're just going to have two materials. Let's go modulate that to something really weird. I don't think this is working. No, it's not. This is actually selected 10, so that's definitely doing something. Selected 13. If I just click, is that enough? No, I have to move it. It's just so. Yeah, this is not. I'm not happy with that. I need to find more options and figuring out, what are we clicking on and what are we doing, because we really don't want to try and move these things. We just want to be able to select something and then work from there. Anyway, I don't think this approach is working, so I'm actually going to go and move this up like so. I'm going to put an else in here. Take this all out. It'd be nicer if that scrolled better. Ooh, we took out a bit too much. Same with this. Let's take this out. There we go. And we'll call that selected material. There we go. Then here we're going to say selected material. I'm going to call that selected. Now we're going to go over here, put in our selected, and we'll make this one darker. There we go. Alrighty, straight text editor coding. Oh, you mean editing like this? I do that all the time too, but GD script, I love editing over here. So yeah, this is once again where it's probably a good idea to just restart this thing. Yes, I could have just disabled the plugin and re-enable it, but this works too. Here we go. Alright. Again, it's funny as hell that it starts in that pose. There we go. So we do get a different color. There we go. So we've got selected that. So actually, yeah. All right, we're gonna change that. Script. Alrighty. So here, keep that in. We're gonna do it like this. Boom. Aha. So that means that with that one selected, we actually get all the bones. Just to highlight, that's the bone that we're changing. Okay, so that's working. Again, I don't like that I need to drag it to select it. I want to be able to just click on it and make that selectable. I want to. But the handles don't allow me to do that. And again, I have the suspicion that when we look at our collision segments or collision triangles, that's just one detection. And I think that's just to the detection that triggers us selecting the whole object. So, that's, if you have this on and I click on the body gets selected, right? So that is with that collision shape in our editor, selecting our beautiful little mannequin. So that would allow us now to say, well, hey, if I click somewhere on our mannequin, then, oops, excuse me, then the skeleton will be selected. Okay, so let's fix our little color issue. I should have left that as 0. So obviously, again, that's not going to be until, well, you know, let's just go in here, disable, enable, close, 3D. There we go. Skeleton. Why? Oh, now it's showing the old skeleton thing. So that's the that's the built-in one. Let's go and was that in here? I think so. Func get priority return. I want priority. Give me priority. And obviously that's not going to do anything unless I do this and I do that. Let's hope. Okay, do I need to then reopen this? So maybe there was sense in yeah, I think that was what I needed to do, because with that unloaded, the old one took over, and then reloading it, ours didn't get in there. So there we go. I definitely want it to be a tin darter. And no, I'm not going to be reloading it again. Anyway. So I hate that stuff that we need to drag. And that's really something that we need to think more of. And yeah, I think I'm going to need to talk to some people who know more about making these editor plugins. Whether we actually should be using this gizmo, whether we should be using something else, or whether we need to actually add some more logic to it. Because, you know, it should be possible to just detect the click. And it should actually be possible to not use handles, but use something, you know, much more communicative. Because what I really want is to actually have a gizmo like this for our rotation. And right now I'm just going to add a couple more gizmos that allows us to do the rotation. And it's going to be ugly as hell. But anyway, that's what it is. Okay, so -1 is our parent. We're going to add some additional handles in here for the selected one, which we're going to hard code as -2, -3, -4. And I actually want to go over here and say, probably can make that in constant values. So we're going to do handle X is going to be -2, handle Y is going to be -3, handle Z is going to be -4. And actually, to be really clear, I want to actually even call them a rotate X, because we're going to use these handles to rotate. Alrighty. So let's start with our handle X. That's the first one that we're going to do. So here we're going to do handles, push back. Okay, so this is going to be bone pos plus. And this time it is going to be our bone transform dot basis dot x, and let's use, well, the 20. Yeah, for now we'll just do that 25. That's good enough, which also means that we can now do handle index dot pushback is handle dot x. So that's how we're going to recognize that that handle is our X rotation handle. And then we do the same for Y. That's going to be our Y rotation handle. And now we're going to do the same for Z. That's going to become our Z rotation handle. There we go. So let's go and put that in here. Else if IDX is handle rotation X. So obviously we need to implement that. Dunk. Y, Z, there we go. Cool. I'm going to figure out what we're going to be doing with that, but all in good time. For now, I just wanted to have that in place. That also means that here, we're going to put in it. That should never happen. Z, Y, there we go. So, come on, just click on the right one. Boom, there we go. So, when I select this guy, we now have a bunch more, and they're way too far out. There we go. But we now have a bunch of extra handles that will allow us to do something with. Now, obviously, it doesn't do anything yet, but we'll deal with that in a minute. So, all right. Let's go and handle this. So I actually want that to be smaller too. So instead of our times 25, we're going to just add that in. Boom. Okay. Perfect. All right, so these are the ones that we're going to make work. All right. All right. So, the way this works is we're actually getting a movement of our mouse here. So this is going to be moving in a certain direction. That's why we're getting a camera here, because our camera is going to tell us what that movement is. So we are going to need to translate this movement to a movement in 3D space, local to our bone. And that's going to be the challenge. How does that work? Let's go and find a place where that is actually being used, which is our Path 3D editor, and have a look at how it's done in Godot, because I can probably think of it, but I'm getting tired. And the best way sometimes is to look at other people's code. And again, this is also somewhere where we can start looking at, okay, is there more that we can learn from this about how things work, and work from there. So here we go. We have a set handle on our path gizmo, which is going to try and figure out what a curve is. Get a global transform there. That's something that we need. We our inverse from there. All right. So we get our project origin. We get our project or our project array normal. Why are we using both of those? It's interesting. Ah. Okay. Yeah, that's one way of doing it. So what they're doing here is actually quite smart. Is they are taking the location, in this case, of the path. What's original here? What is original? Where is this coming from? Oh, okay. I get it. Okay, number value. Huh. Okay, so here they are using, well, or using the fact that when we first select our point, it is getting the value of that thing, which is actually our original position of our handle, which is fine. Okay, but anyway, based on the position of the point where we start, what they're doing here is they're creating a flat plane that is aligned with the camera. So I'm looking in this direction, and I'm looking straight at that plane. So if I look around that, the plane swivels. And now I'm casting a ray based on my mouse position, which is the thing that's being sent here. I'm casting a ray and I'm seeing where on that plane I hit, which basically means that that point is being moved within that plane. It's really what you want. And that allows us to adjust a 3D path, and it's using it's doing that within the plane at which you're looking at. So we can do the same thing here. I think that is actually a fine way to do this. We're just going to need our original point where we're starting. And what I want to do then is figure out where the new point is, but instead of just moving it there, well, we're going to start with that, just looking, just moving it around. We're actually going to create a new vector from our start point, from our origin point, and work from there. So all right, we're not going to store it because we actually have it available. We're just going to be working from here directly because we actually need a couple of things. So we got our X, Y, and Z from our current selected record. All right. We have our index. That's fine. So we're going to get our bone transform. Here we go. Not for bone transform. We need to get our skeleton again, don't we? It's a bit annoying. I think we're going to we're going to move that up. So you're going to go over there. And we indeed are going to copy this because we need those as well. Boom, boom, boom. Just don't want to over duplicate things. So here we're just going to purely do okay. we get our skeleton. We get the bone transform of the bone that we're trying to edit. Cool. Then I actually want to have our bone pulse already. Bone pulse dot. Origin. Oh, bone transformed it in origin. There we go. We're going to do our handle pulse, which we're going to start off as just being a bone pulse, but in this case we're going to change that and say, where's our calculation? Because I want to duplicate that calculation exactly as we have it over here. All right. Actually, I don't need to initialize it here. I just want to make sure that that is a vector 3. All right, cool. Doom. Hey. Doom. Doom. So, where does all these tabs come from? That's going to be Y. That's going to be Z. So now we get our original position. And now we're going to do that same trick that we're doing over here. Is doing all that. All right. So we don't need GT and GI, I think. No, we do. Okay. So let's build our plane. We really should add some comments in here, shouldn't we? So get our bone position in global space. Get the position of our handle. Should never happen, but you never know. So I'm just going to quit out there. Get a plane for our handle. So this is going to be for P plane. All right. So this needs to be bone transform. Is that on our? It's interesting. That is because this one needs, yeah. So we actually don't need this. So this is going to be bone, no, handle pulse. This is going to be camera dot. Is that global transform? No, get transform. Get camera transform? Why is that get transform and here is get camera transform? Interesting. Well, let's assume that's right. Dot bases. Do we have a get axis on this? No, we don't. But I'm pretty sure that this is Z. All right, so now we have a plane perpendicular to the direction that we're perpendicular. I think so, to the direction that we're looking based on our pulse. Now do an intersection test. So intersect ray, and then our from is our camera gets, no, projects ray origin point. Yeah. Camera Interesting that that is different in C than here, but that's fine. Project array normal points. There we go. Yeah, from direction. Perfect. So that should now give us a new location for that. All right. So we're actually set handle. All right. So that's not going to do anything yet because we can move it, but we're not actually updating anything. So now we have where we're moving it to depending on that plane, which is for our path editing really cool, but for what we're doing here, not what we really want. We now need to go and calculate a matrix out of that. So all right. This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be some weird math because the thing is, we're doing everything now in global space, and then we need to figure out what that's going to be in local space minus our rest position. It's gonna be fun. Yes. We'll get there. Okay. So. Calculate our new rotation transform. Actually, just our new transform. Okay. So our new transform. So we're just going to create an empty transform for now. And we can start with transform.origin is going to remain. Actually, you know what? We are just going to start by bone transform. We're just going to start by assigning our bone track. So our origin point is going to stay the same. It's purely our rotation that's going to be different. So now we're going to calculate new direction. So here we're going to say our moved to minus bone transform dot origin. But we're going to go and normalize that. All right. Now we need to do our X, Y, and Z thing again. Let's copy them all. And let's just first implement our X. Okay. Pass. Now the other thing that I really want to do is we're commenting out the ones that we're not implementing to just make it easier to test what we're doing. There we go. So we're only going to see the one that we're currently doing. All right, so that means that our new transform.basis.x is going to be our new dir. So that's where we're starting with. But that means that our new transform.basis.z is going to be new transform basis.y.cross. I always get these things the wrong way around, and that needs to be normalized. So it might end up that we need to test this a few times before we get them the right way around. But we'll see. All right, so we're going to start with this one. What can we do right now? Nothing. It's not working at all. Oh, because we're not actually doing anything. We're calculating this thing and now we're not doing anything with it. Haha. Okay. Cool. So we now have our new transform, our new global transform where we want this to be. Now we need to figure out what the difference is between our parent global position plus our rest transform and this. Funky. All right. So let's start with getting our parents transform. Get our parents transform. All right. For parent transform is, we haven't done anything with that, have we? Oh, but that's fine. Is skeleton dot get bone global pose skeleton get bone parent index. Was it IDX? I think so. So we now have our parents transform. So that's the first thing that we want to do. Rest transform. Okay, so parent transform. And this might, actually I'm going to do it like this. This might need to be the other way around. We will soon see. All right. Times skeleton get rest pose. Okay, I guess that is it. So basically now we're going to get our parents global transform. We're adding our local transform to that so that we get our global transform for our bone, but in rest position, with everything else in the skeleton not at rest, which is really funny. And then the difference between that and the transform that we just created is actually going to be the transform that we need. And of course the big question is, have I got it the right ring around? Because I might have that one the wrong way around, and I might we might get this one wrong. So pose is going to be new transform times parent transform Why don't I see that one? I hate it when it does that. Transform. Oh, that's 2D one, okay. Yeah, inverse. Okay. So again, that might be the wrong way around. We shall soon find that out. And that should now mean that we should be able to do skeleton set bone pose IDX pose. We might be completely screwing it up right now. Luckily, we have a really nice way to undo that because we are working on a thing, so we should be able to just reset it. So here we go. Select that guy, and that is still not doing. So are we not getting our? Oh, there we go. Out of bounds, bone size. Oh, hold on. That's our problem. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha. So our index is now actually our handle here, which means that we need to use our selected bone instead. Let's make that a bit bigger. So we're going to do that here and here and here and here. Is there any more? I think that's it. Let's clear it out. Go back to here. All right, invalid. Cannot convert argument to nil to float. Okay. Okay. So the constructor that we're using here to create our here, plane, that, and that. So we're using a plane constructor here. Plane. Point normal. That's the one that we're using. But that one is not available. So we've got a plane from 3 vectors. We plot a plane from a normal and a distance, and we have a plane from 4 floats, which are just the 4 floats that we have. We do not have a plane constructor based on a point and a normal. All right, then I guess we're just going to have to look at the implementation for that. Where are you? Plane, here we go. Well, there we go. We've got our normal and normal dot point. Okay, so let's do that. Where's our plane? Plane. Here we go. So var plane normal is that guy. D is plane normal dot handle pos. Okay, which means that we can do D. No, it's the other way around. Plane normal D. There we go. We shall see if that will work. 30. Well, that's completely screwed it up. Which now means that if we go over here and we turn our animate back on. Oh, we do need a set get for that. Okay, that's fine. Set get. Set animate. Blank. Set animate. New value. Our new animates. Animates is new animates. If is inside tree, we're gonna go and say play. So, there we go. Off, back on. Okay, that's still not working. No, is it? Or is it just not? Yeah, it hasn't redrawn our skeleton. All right. Okay, now this is funny because our animation is playing, but it's not actually updating our skeleton. I wonder if we can have our gizmo react to state changes. That's probably something that we can apply a signal to. I'm guessing. Not sure. Don't really know. Okay. However, that said, let's go and stop our animation because that's always going to get in the way. We screwed this thing up, and there are so many different things now that could be wrong. From miscalculating our transform to the order in which we're updating this. Now, that I think is correct, but I think this one is probably the wrong way around. So let's start there and see if I got that wrong. Okay. All right. Close. Close. Very close. Believe it or not. All right. So that should probably be enough to reset it. So the reason that is going wrong is we got these things the wrong way around. So let's start by doing this the other way around. Yep, we're back. All right. Wow, that is really slow in updating. Am I printing anything? No, I'm not printing anything. Or is it just because of... Oh. Wonder why that is so slow. We still got some things the wrong way around because it's turning it inside out, but that's all right. So let's go back here, go animate. I think our problem is because it's redrawing everything over here every time that we change it. I think that it's getting a bit overpowered. So let's go and try this. There we go. Now this could be that we then need to change this the other way around again. Which is the annoying bit. There we go. It's back to where it was in the beginning. Oh, we are still animating. Why are we still animating? Stop animating. Okay. So I think the big problem is that this is just taking too much time to update this interface. Or it's just taking too much time to draw this. Okay, so that's gone back the other way around. I was kind of expecting that. Which means that there we go. Okay. Let's reset. All right, that's looking pretty decent. But my biggest problem is that it's just taking too much time to draw. And I'm not quite sure why. What is this holdup where it's... Boom. So now it finally draws. Is it the redraw of our lines? Or is it something else? I'm not sure. All right. So one thing that I want to try just to see if that helps Actually, let's go and do that like this. And just comment that out so that if I want to undo this, again, I'm just trying to hunt where is our slowdown. Is it just a drawing of the lines, which is possible? Is it how we're drawing these things? Actually, let's just do it like this because we might end up. There we go. All right, 3D. Okay, so why does it draw a few times okay, and then all of a sudden it starts to go like, I don't want to update anymore. Where is that slowdown coming from? Okay, that's even weirder because we can see that we're still doing everything, but it's like it hasn't caught on and it needs to redraw this thing. Okay. I'm just gonna go and use my animation to reset it again. Let's start slowly adding the other ones in, and then we will figure out, you know, why is it stuttering so much. There we go. So let's take out our X and let's go and start with Z. And I know that's a bit weird that I'm starting with Z. But Z is the closest to this one, so we're going to go move that in there, which means that now we're going to do our Z here, which means our X should now be that exact same calculation, I think. We will soon see. All right, so we have been reset. So now we can see that we've got our fourth thing. Ooh, okay, obviously not. So, new year. Oh, that's why. Then obviously that now needs to be our X to get our Y. All right. Again, let's use our animation to reset stuff. There we go. So I should now be able to do that. And I should be able to rotate that nicely around here. And again, we got the same problem. At some point, it just slows down. I don't know why. I think actually one of the problems that we're having is it seems to be like one frame behind. So I'm wondering if it's just not getting a signal to update. I don't know. All right. We definitely need to do an undo or reset or something like that, but we'll eventually figure that out as well. All right, let's do our Y. All right, it's almost time to stop. Whoops. Let's get those in order. So, same deal, but now I'm just going to be a little bit more careful. So we're going to calculate our Y as this. Then okay, so it's going to be Z cross new direction, so that's a new Y, and that's that one. There we go. Let's see if that works. Okay, we definitely have something flipping around. That should work. Why doesn't it? All right, I'm just going to do this in the opposite direction. All right, that's weird. All right. I'm going here. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to think this through because it's always a pain to get these the right way around. I always forget which way the cross product should go. Right. So here we're calculating Z forward, and then it's up cross Z to get X. So are we doing the same thing here? So this is when we're looking forward, which is that. So new deer. Okay, so this is definitely saying that we should be using new deer to get our X. Yeah. And then our Y should be our Z, so that should be new deer. How's that? Okay. Maybe we're too quick with this one. Okay. Hold on. We need to use our animation again to reset. There we go. All right, so we got our Z back. Oh, I just wanna. Yeah, that is moving around. So we must not have been paying very good attention just now. Okay. So now a Y. Zoom in again. And then I'm wondering if I've done my X one correctly. All right, so now we know. Okay, so that is our new deer. Oops. With our Y. Let's see. As it, sorry, yeah, because we're doing our X. And now I want to get Z as X, Y. All right. Z, you dear. Z. Okay, I think they're all using the same functions now. Same approach, okay. So now we can go move that. Oh, that looks perfect. Okay. It is really weird how it has that delay in that last one. Even though we've already let go, it is still running. Okay, hold on. Okay. Cool. Alrighty, I'm actually gonna go and play around with this guy. Oh wow, look at that. That one's actually kind of upside down. Does work. I wonder if we can see it immediately work. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Where's your head? All right. Okay, can't say I like this enough because of this way of doing it. I think I would like to constrain it in the actual. You know, when we're moving the X, we're actually rotating around. Let's say the Y. When we grab the Y, we're rotating around. You know, because that's what we get with this, right? Is, oops. When you look at this one, we're specifically rotating around an axis, either in local space or in global space. And I really want to have more of a widget like that with those round things, because right now it's too imprecise to control. The other thing, of course, is with having the same handles to do both selections of which bone we want to edit and doing the rotations, it gets very confusing of what we're doing. However, all the principal elements are in place. So we have a plugin that we register. We are reacting to the selection of a skeleton. We're drawing the whole widget, albeit slow. And again, I don't know if it is the drawing of the lines that is slowing it down, or whether it is the way that we handle our in repositioning of things that is slowing stuff down. I'm not sure. But I think it's a good start. We have some ability now to, you know, change our skeleton. Now, one of the other things that we need to do, actually, this is really interesting. You can see that we're actually changing. This is where it goes upside down. Again, this is where it just is going to be very important that we change the way that rotation works. Bring it more to that type of interface. So let's go and clean this guy up again. Boom, boom. So it's interesting to see that it is immediately updating our mannequin, but it's not immediately updating our skeleton itself. So I don't think it's actually a drawing issue. I think it's that it doesn't realize that it needs to redraw the skeleton. And is that it needs to redraw the widget. Is there something in here? Oh, when we look at this guy, not playing. Oh, it closed it. Oh, I hate it when it does that. Let's find it again. So somewhere in our editor plugins, here we go. We've got our path plugin. Because obviously our path editor has got exactly the same thing. That on our set handle, we do a bunch of things. Snap. Set position. This is a commit handle that we need to do. I think so. Ah. Okay, it sounds to me that's something that we need to add in as well. Not sure if that has anything to do with it, but that's something that we do need to add in. So when, and that's, I think, where returning the value is going to be important. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna need to add in func get handle value. Sweet. So in this case, return skeleton gets bone pose IDX, and then the other case we're going to do it for that. Thank you. So we're not actually going to be using that, but we are going to be using that. So in this case, we're going to get that for the right index. Okay. Sweet. So now we want to do a set handle over here. Boom. And now we're going to do our func commit handle. Boom. And what we're going to be doing here is if index. No, we need to go and look that up first. Boom. That is the other problem. Else if index smaller than -1, we're going to do that. Actually, you know what? We're going to leave that as else, but instead, oops, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. Boom. Better. Okay. All right. That one we're going to ignore. And in this case, we're going to do var UR is spatial. We don't have access to that here. Really? What the? Why does that not match? What's it complaining about with the commit handle? Set handle. Commit handle. Restore variant. Void. Commit handle. Index restore. So what does it want us to specifically class that? I think it's the bowl is false. I think that's what it's falling over. So you know what? I'm actually not going to class this, and I'm just going to put in equals false. Alrighty. So that solves that. Spatial editor. Okay. Editor. I bet you this has a different name inside of the editor here. Just find a get under reader. There we go. Editor plugin. I am guessing that we're just going to get that from the plugin. So no. Oh, that returns the gizmo plugin. That doesn't make sense because, let's see, get plugin gets a spatial gizmo plugin. Okay, singleton. No, it's not accessible as a. Well, one thing that we can do, if cancel, we can at least so in this case we can at least skeleton set bone pose selected bone restore. I'm guessing. No idea. I'm not even sure how we cancel things. That was undo of the animate bones. Okay, so conclusion: we've got the basics of our plugin up and running. We're drawing our skeleton, which is kind of cool. So we actually have the skeleton drawing in a similar way as the original gizmo does. We are now abusing handles to allow us to select a bone. Now, actually, I'm going to undo the changes that I've done here in my redraw. So we're going to go and do that like this again, because we found out that that wasn't our slowdown. There we go. So that should now allow us to have that draw like that. So let's indeed see if that does not slow down. So let's go and select you. There we go. So that's still working just fine. So our problem just is that our well, just fine, that our skeleton isn't being updated in real time. I have no idea why. So that's something to figure out. So yeah, so we're abusing our handles to select. So I'm not happy about that, but that's just what we have right now. This is too free form. So while it is interesting to do that logic based on the plane, I don't think that is sensible. So we definitely need to go to a widget approach similar to this over here, where we're really just rotating around one axis instead of doing a recalculation of our our bases based on, you know, whatever new vector we get. It's just too imprecise. So yeah, so that's I think something that needs to change, that we're going to rotate specifically around a certain axis, and then we're just going to do the mouse movement just to figure out how far we've moved. It's going to be interesting to figure out how we're going to do that. So yeah, which probably means storing and tracking the mouse movement. I have to figure that one out. I'm not quite sure. But that would give us much finer control over our rotations, which also means that we need to have a toggle whether we're rotating in local space or global space. But the principles are all there. We have a way to select our bones. We have a way to rotate the position of our bones. We're currently only adjusting our pose. We also don't have a nice shortcut in here to set it as keyframes, because that obviously is the next step. Once we have the rotation and adjustment really fine-tuned, we'll start working on that. So yeah, I'm not happy with how it works, but we have all the ingredients. We have all the basic ways of making this editor work. We just need better gizmos. We need to change the way that these gizmos work. And again, I have no idea how we can make that. But yeah, we have a start. All right. I think I'm going to leave it there tonight, guys. I think that is as far as we take it tonight. I'll keep reading up and talking to people during the week to figure out, okay, is there a way that I can actually detect where I'm clicking? You know, it's a shame that as far as I can see, I think our collision shape that we can add is just for the select of the object, that if I click on that collision shape, it will select this object. I think that's purely what that is for. However, you know, just simply seeing that if my object is selected, and you know that is working. Then again, that's always a single gizmo. One other option would be to actually have additional selection objects added into our tree. So instead of trying to create all the gizmos in the skeleton itself, we actually create extra nodes in the background that you don't actually see in here. That's how the tree in our what do you call it? How the graph works in the proc mesh. So those are nodes that get added to the scene on the fly, but they're not part of the scene. They're not saved as part of the scene. They're helper nodes. And I think we might be able to do that here as well, where we're actually going to create objects for each individual bone as details on our skeleton as we're editing this thing. And then remove them when we're done editing. So yeah, I have to figure out if that works, if that's something that we can do. But you know, for 3 hours work, I'm happy. So yeah, guys, if there are any more questions about what we've been doing so far, I realized, especially in the end, we did start to do some wicked little math around creating our transforms. And again, while this works, this is very similar to, and that's why I was also looking at that code. If I can bring it up, why can't I bring it up? Here we go. It's already removed it, which is annoying. But why I was looking at the look at function behind the scenes, how that works, because that's really all it is when you are creating a transform and you're working with the basis, so the orientation of your object. You're just calculating what the 3 vectors are for your orientation. So what's your forward vector, what's your up vector, what's your sideways vector. And you do that by, basically the one that we manipulate. We just want a directional vector to where our point now is. And then we calculate the other ones based on their previous values. So here, we are updating our x direction because that is the point that we are moving. And then we're recalculating the z by taking our current y with that one. And then we're redoing the y, which is still possible to be the same value because we want to rotate within that area. Now, again, I think in the next stream, we are going to change the way this works because this is too imprecise. It's fun to do, but it's way too imprecise. So we want much more granular control over the axis by just manipulating just one axis at a time. So yeah, so that is, unfortunately a little bit funky. The other one, of course, is what I'm doing over here. This part, now that's just getting the global pose of our parent. That should be pretty straightforward. But when we then look at here where we're multiplying one transform with another transform, that combines those 2 transforms, and we need to do them in order. And that is always the bit of, the confusing bit, the thing that gets everybody. But basically what this means is we're taking the global transform of our parent and we're adding our local rest transform to it so that we get our global rest transform with all the other poses applied for all your node's parents except for yourself, because what we want to do is we just want to figure out the difference between those 2, and that difference, that is what we're doing over here, where we're taking the inverse of what we just calculated here. And the inverse is a matrix that is, if I have an object, I got a phone, and I'm rotating and moving it with a transform to move over here, the inverse of this transform would, from this starting position, move it back. So it's the exact opposite of the transform that you've got. And by multiplying that with our new position, we're getting the difference between those 2. So if our parent transform plus our rest transform moves our arm here, but we want it to be there, then by taking that transform and multiplying that with the inverse of that transform, we get that difference. We purely get that difference between those 2 transforms. And that's all that I'm doing here, so that I end up with a pose that is purely, okay, how much more do I need to move or rotate, in this case, this arm to get it to that final global position. And when you look at transforms, it's, this is probably a very complex thing because we're working on, bones being parents of other bones, being parents of bones, being, when you look at a skeleton, you look at, one of our finger bones over here, the position of that finger bone is dependent on the transform of that bone, is dependent on the transform of that bone, that bone, all the way back to here. So all those transforms are all multiplied together to get that final place. And with each one of those having a rest pose and a a current pose. So that's a lot of multiplications of transforms. And all we're doing is trying to look at the end result of 2 bones connected. So yeah, with something with so many bones, it does get a little confusing Just want to put it back to the starting position. It gets a little confusing what we're doing there. So when we're looking at transfers like that, I probably need to think of a much simpler example where we could do some simple shows of, okay, if you have this with this child, how do those local transforms eventually end up with a new global transform for, you know, the grandchild of our parent node. And then we can play around with, you know, what happens if you do inverse, what happens if you multiply things, what is actually going on there. Okay. So that is really the code that we have here. So obviously we need to figure out how to fix our commit handle. We can look at the example code in our existing background logic, but for some reason we can't access that redo undo state. So we've got to figure out what we're missing there. Because it would really be nice when you make a mistake in moving something, you just have a quick undo. So that's something that I really want to add in. So that commit handle is a really cool thing to eventually have. But I need to figure out why I can't access it. Whether that's something with the edit the spatial plugin that just doesn't have access to it, or whether there is indeed a global singleton that we need to access. I'm not sure. But we will figure it out. So yeah, a good start, but definitely something that we need to figure out. You know, okay, how can we take this to the next level? How can we make this a UI that's actually friendly to use? Because right now this is not friendly. And I don't know yet. We'll play around with it. I think the first step is actually rewriting this to really be a rotation around the angle. And I think one of the things that we need to do is start looking at adding the buttons on our toolbar here to support that. So I want to have a button that resets our current selected node to, you know, its rest pose. I want a button that switches between, are we rotating local, or you know, see if we actually can tie that into our use local space here. There should be a way for us to access that information. Those are all sorts of things that we can start using in there. And you know, I really would like to have a little keyframe thingy in there as well. Depending on which bone we have selected, you know, we can immediately create a keyframe if we're in animation mode, instead of having to go, you know, when the animation, if our animation player is open, is, there we go, it's actually going through, you know, all these. Wow, you could actually keyframe the parents. That's pretty insane. So you would normally, you would never keyframe your rest pose. You would always be keyframing your position pose. Again, figuring out whether it makes sense to make our rest pose editable, and whether it makes sense to actually change the positioning of our pose here. Well, that actually does make sense, because if you want to do your, you know, your shoulder thing, that does indeed mean that you need to move that. Rotation isn't enough. So that's something that we need to add to. It's not just rotation, but also moving. But I think it's purely our pose that we want to have keyframeable. So having a shortcut to have our selected pose, you know, have the ability to keyframe it right away, that does make a lot of sense to me. So yeah, that's where I'm gonna end it tonight, guys. So I hope that was interesting and informational. We're not there yet, but I think we've made a lot of progress towards a plugin that can actually allow us to pose our character. And again, you know, the whole point of this is once we have some more characters in there and we have our rooms in our carriers do something, it makes a lot of sense to be able to tweak the positions of our characters in Editor. Instead of having to go back to Blender or something like that and do our keyframing there. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to be able to do that in the Editor. So yeah, good start. We'll continue on this next time. Now, before I forget, next week I am not streaming. I am going to take my family out, or actually my family is going to take me out. So I have plans that Friday. I'll see if I can do a stream earlier. I'm not quite sure. Maybe try and do a stream during the week. But seeing this is a short week, we've got public holidays on Mondays over here. I'm suspecting that I'm going to be extra busy. So we'll see. I'm not sure yet. But I will be back in 2 weeks. Now, Friday, 2 weeks from now, we're back in our normal time slot. So it's just next week that I'm taking a break, spending some time with the family. So I hope you guys understand that. But that's life. So yeah, cool. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye. There we go.